I'm here to tell you a bit about the business that was carried out at Network Homes board meeting last night. As any of you who've seen these broadcasts before will know, we are making it our routine now to report back to residents on what our board of directors discussed and decided at each of their scheduled board meetings. Last night was a business meeting in the sense that a lot of it was taken up with receiving the annual accounts and approving the annual accounts. And what the headlines from those was that Network declared a surplus of £31 million for the year 1920. That was significantly reduced from the previous year, and that is because in the previous year we had sold a major asset, a student accommodation building in central London. Just to remind everybody, Network utilises its surpluses to pay for services and to contribute to the development of new homes. At the moment, as a sort of rule of thumb, we will put £31,000 a home into each new home for rent that we develop, but sometimes that will be a higher number if it's a scheme that's not subsidised by other kinds of finance. We also noted that our development numbers had reduced in the previous year from around 750 to around 350. That's not because we're reducing the scale of our ambition to develop new homes. It is because we are at the sort of beginning of a programme cycle building up to 22-23, during the course of which we hope to deliver 1,700 homes in London and some 300 or 400 outside London. Obviously, our development programme has been affected by the COVID pandemic, as has every other part of our services. But all our development sites are now back, including those where we are carrying out fire safety remediation. And we think that with social distancing and other measures, we're operating at about 70 to 80% capacity. The board also discussed service performance, other aspects of service performance, most particularly health and safety. We have, through the COVID pandemic, been able to maintain our statutory obligation to service gas appliances once a year, with a few exceptions where people have not wanted to admit the engineers because they are in the shielding category. We are now asking people, as the government guidance towards people who are shielding has changed, to give us access to service their gas appliances if they haven't done so. We have some numbers overdue, maybe about 3 dozen. So those people are being contacted individually, and we are making a concerted effort to persuade people that servicing their gas appliance is also important to their health and well-being. In regard to fire safety, we have a number of major remediation projects on site, including recladding our ACM covered tower in South London and the big project in the scheme in Edgware Road. All of those projects are now fully back and functional and progressing well. The impact of fire remediation on our business plan and our future development capacity was discussed extensively by the board last night. We have built in the costs of remediating any buildings known to need improvements into our business plan over the next 10 years. Now, obviously, that is quite a long period, but it is also quite a large amount of money. And we are working with other housing associations and across the G15 to talk to government about how the impact of that long remediation programme can be managed, especially the impact for people who are shared owners or leaseholders who may wish to sell a property and who may be encountering difficulties because of the mortgage lenders' requirements on tall buildings. The area of performance that was discussed, which has been most affected by the pandemic, is that of empty properties and lettings. Clearly, we haven't been able to let either general need properties, with a few exceptions. We've continued lettings to people who are encountering domestic violence or other threats of violence, or emergency homeless applicants. But a lot of letting activity stalled through the pandemic. That has now all restarted. but we have a backlog of empty property, particularly in our older persons schemes where there's been, additional restrictions, and we are putting additional resources now into getting those homes let. We have continued with rent collection activity. Obviously, through the pandemic, the government's policy was to support individual households either through the furlough scheme or universal credit or other mechanisms to be able to meet their household expenses. And by and large, income collection, rent collection has held up. We are down slightly, but not significantly. We have, however, strengthened the role of our welfare advice team, and they have been instrumental in assisting people who are in financial difficulty in being able to meet their bills. And we have been able to make 67 grants out of our new charitable fund, mainly food vouchers to people who are in particularly difficult circumstances. Obviously, as the economic impact of the pandemic develops, we will be closely monitoring the effect of this on people living in our homes, and we will continue to provide a strong welfare advice and support service, and we will assist people in every way to be able to meet their financial obligations that we can, although of course we do still have to collect rents. Finally, or a couple of things to finish off, the board discussed last night a revision to our asset management strategy. That means the way that we approach investing in our existing homes, the money that we spend on repairs and major repairs, but most particularly in relation to the discussion last night, how we are going to approach the requirement from the government that we start to reduce the carbon emissions from our homes and contribute to the country's sustainability environmental targets. We're right at the beginning of assessing how much this is going to cost. It is likely to be extremely expensive, particularly in relation to older homes that need retrofitting to reduce their carbon emissions. It is estimated that 80% of the homes that will be required to be zero carbon households by 2050 are already built. They will almost all require some work. So we are beginning to assess how much that's going to cost and how we might be able to pay for it and what those works programs will look like and whether we can collaborate with other housing associations in order to complete this work. And finally, I'm speaking to you this morning from a small meeting room at our new headquarters, the Hive. We were due to move in here in April. Obviously, that has been delayed by the COVID pandemic, and the building is still relatively empty. We have a few people here beginning to test out systems, including our COVID safe working systems, and we expect to be remobilizing within a fully fixed COVID safe environment across the month of August. By COVID safe, I mean we have taken out the use of every other desk and other methods like one-way systems around the building. We hope that we will be opening our reception here from September, and we'll keep you posted on that. And once we are fully open, hope to see some of you to show you around our wonderful new facility. Our previous office, the Olympic Office Centre, is in our redevelopment programme, and we'll be moving forward with that shortly also. So from the Hive, thank you very much, and I'll see you for a report on our next board meeting, which I believe is in November.